Hi, everyone. I want to go over several assessments of emergent literacy for you so that you have them as a tool that you can use when you are in your own classroom or working with your own students. So this document is called Emergent Literacy Assessment Assignment. It's not an assignment. But within this document, there are 5 different assessment tools. There's one that assesses concepts about book and comprehension of text. The second assessment assesses writing development. The third, story retelling assessment, viewing and speaking assessment, and then at the last one is concepts of print assessment. Also included is a parental permission slip. When you're thinking about assessment and you're teaching in your own classroom, you will have informed consent from parents to conduct assessments because you are supporting the learning of their children. If you were going to be conducting assessments outside of your classroom, where maybe you're meeting with students who are not part of your classroom, you need informed consent from parents. You want some sort of written policy about assessments, which pretty much states that you are being and using assessments ethically. So the first assessment in this document is a checklist style assessment on assessing concepts about books and comprehension of text. You can see an assessment can be as simple as this. The first section is all about concepts about books. Does a child know that the book is for reading? Can they identify the front, the back, the top, the bottom of a book? Can they turn the page properly? Do they know the difference between the print and the picture? Think about it this way. Is this something you're going to sit down and test children on, or is this something that you need to have taken notice of by frequent observations of the child's book behavior throughout the day, throughout a month? And also, if you're assessing children on these concepts about books and comprehension of text, then you have to be teaching them. So part of your read aloud, or when you introduce a book, you are identifying the front. You are pointing out print and pictures, the difference, right? You're showing where to begin reading, what the title is, who the author and illustrator are. For comprehension of text, are you observing children attempting to read storybooks? Are they participating in story reading by narrating as the teacher reads? Do they retell stories? Do they understand that a narrative story elements in the story are the setting, the theme, the plot, the resolution? So some of this is for older children versus preschool, kindergarten. First grade, you're starting to learn some of these things, but some of these down here are more for early emergent skills. Then you go here, use graphic organizers, partner reading, buddy reading, literature circles, mental imagery, think alouds, and discussions, think, pair, share. Some of these are for younger or early emergent readers, but these could be used when you think about accommodating and providing more of a challenged element to your lesson. If you have a couple or more students who know how to use a graphic organizer, they can understand maybe to use a graphic organizer that tells you similarities between characters, right? Or they can do partner reading. So that might be the way that you create a more challenging lesson. And so again, this includes vocabulary development, table of parts of books or text. And so here's the assessing writing development. The explores with writing materials, dictates stories, copies letters, independently attempts writing to convey meaning regarding a writing level. Independently attempting to write to convey meaning could be just creating a picture and then dictating to you what they mean. Okay, so they attempt to write and they understand that their picture conveys a meaning as they tell you that. So here's a level at which a child might be writing that you can just check off. and then place for comment. So story retelling assessment begins with an introduction, gives time and place, always, sometimes. And so here's a point system on this checklist and with the possible score. So it has a rubric. Viewing and speaking. This is where you'll have to sit down and really work with a child with a book. This is where it can get kind of tricky. If you need to have a checklist with you while you're assessing a child, the child can become really anxious or nervous and feel like you are testing them. So if you're doing a viewing, a speaking assessment about a book, you really want to know what the assessment is so you can probably ask these questions without always looking at the paper, right? Being present with the child, looking them in the eye and conversing with them. Speaking, can they tell you the title of the book? Up here, can you point out the main character? Can you point to the title? See, there's a little bit of a difference with the viewing and the speaking. And then our final checklist is concepts of print checklist. And so some similarities to things that we've seen before. And here you can see you're asking in the fall, mid-year, and spring, because you should see some mastery. If at the beginning of the school year, a child doesn't know how to hold the book, by the end of the year, they should, because they should be showing, you should be modeling this and talking about how do you hold a book? Can you show me where to begin to read? Can you move your finger to show me where to go after I finish reading this title, right? When I get to the end of the page, where will I find the next line? So some of these, you'd want to look through it, 1 point per each, and then you have a score for each trimester of the year. And then down here, assessing reading and writing on the developmental continuum. So this is with Creative Curriculum for Preschool, Volume 3. So here's this idea is that in class, children have opportunities to develop their fine motor skills. So all of these things build fine motor skills, so then you can begin to hold the pencil correctly, right? And have those muscles in your fingers develop to be able to move the pencil or the writing utensil correctly. And so it kind of builds on each other. And emergency literacy checklist, the use of language, rhyme, these should sound familiar to you. So this is a way that you can have a checklist to check off where children are with their emergent literacy development. And there's a little disclaimer here. The emergency literacy checklist is a tool that can be used by early childhood educators, parents, caregivers to identify the general level of emerging literacy skill development. The items on the list provide a basis for determining which skill has been acquired, which skill can be enhanced, and which skill needs to be developed. And that is really the basics for all the assessment checklists in this packet, is that you're assessing children to know what type of activities you need to be doing in your large group, your small group, in free or choice time, so that children can develop those emergent literacy skills that they haven't developed and begin to build a foundation for their reading. And the checklist is something to use, but not to be a drill and kill, in sense that if you can observe it, the better, that's the best, and then write down what you've seen, versus taking a checklist and sitting down with a child and drilling them on the different skills that the checklist is covering. So see you online.